Welcome to Modern Management of the Older Adult, brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence.
Hey everybody, what's up? My name is Ellen Seppi. I'm a doctor of physical therapy coming to you live from Littleton, Colorado. Welcome everybody to the MMOA podcast, brought to you by the Institute of Clinical Excellence. Today, we are going to be talking about one of the fastest growing sports in America. I know we're all hot off the Olympics, but in fact, this sport is pickleball. So pickleball is growing at a super intense rate, appealing to seniors, especially at this beautiful rate because it's ease of access, it's fun social aspect, and it's really fun to play. So in our podcast tonight, we're going to talk a lot about what pickleball is. We're going to talk about the most common injuries that we're going to see. And then we're going to talk about things pickleball players should be doing to prevent those injuries. So pickleball is a racket sport basically played on half of a tennis ball or a tennis court with something that's the size of a baseball, but it's like a wiffle ball and a paddle. It requires arguably much less running than tennis, which makes it super appealing to seniors. As clinicians, we've seen a notable increase in pickleball related injuries, mostly because pickleball is just getting much more popular, especially among people who haven't been as active as they'd like to have been for several years. So we're going to talk about this recent, basically retrospective cohort analysis of pickleball players and the injuries that they sustain. So pickleball players, far and away sustain most of their injuries, both men and women, because of slip, trip, fall, or dive injuries. So they're not musculoskeletal injuries that just occur because they reached too far or they had, they landed funny. This sport doesn't really require a lot of different landing strategies. And the force that you're hitting the ball with is arguably much less than a tennis racket on a tennis ball. But it requires a lot of quick movements, and for somebody who hasn't been super active, this can be the catalyst for an injury. For both men and women, the most common muscular strain affected the lower leg, specifically the Achilles tendon. So that's the most commonly seen injury among pickleball players. But I'd like to point out some notable differences between men and women picklers, and the injuries that they sustain. Men in general were 3 times as likely to suffer a strain or a sprain, while interestingly, women were 3.5 times more likely to suffer a fracture than men and 9 times more likely to suffer a wrist fracture, largely because we see so many more women sustaining osteoporotic related fractures, and pickleball injuries are largely common among seniors 60 years and older. So those women are prime real estate, unfortunately, for a fracture related to a slip or a trip. But again, the take-home message here, friends, is that slips, trips, falling, and diving injuries were among the most common injuries that we saw in picklers. They were the number one reason they got hurt. So what can we do to prevent this? This is the meat and potatoes of this discussion tonight, team. Pickleball players should be training for pickleball. So pickleball players should be doing these things. They should be able to run forward. Pickleball doesn't really require a lot of sustained running. A lot of it is running quick and then moving quick footwork back and forth to hit the ball. It doesn't require nearly as much force as a tennis ball to get it over the racket. You're not hitting the ball nearly as hard or as far, but you still have to be able to run. And a lot of people are tricked into this idea that because the court is smaller and it doesn't require running, that that's not a prerequisite. But in my opinion, this is definitely something that pickleball players should be able to do because it's part of the sport. They should also be able to run backwards. So being able to quickly back paddle isn't a very common part of the sport because once you're basically at the net, it's not very common for you to have to go back and forth. But still, if we know that slips, trips, falls are common in pickleball, we should be able to set our patients up. Since that's not technically, you're not diving like you are in volleyball, you should be able to play the sport while maintaining vertical. You should be able to run in different directions, including backwards. So if you have a patient who had an injury while playing pickleball, that should be on your short list. Being able to run at least short distances and being able to run backward. That's another important component. So another common thing that our pickleball players should be doing in their training is skipping. And this might seem like a pretty silly thing, but if we know that patients are sustaining Achilles injuries, we want to make sure that they're able to quickly produce the power necessary for their sport. So skipping should be part of their drills. A lot of our senior patients think that a more important exercise for pickleball warming up is maybe stretching their wrist or their forearm. But if we know that injuries can be prevented through specific strength training, skipping should definitely be another component of their training. Thing number 4 is being able to lunge in several different directions. So being able to lunge forward, backward, lunging with weight is going to protect ourselves against those calf injuries as well, and also keep our knees and our hips healthy to go and change different directions while we're on the court. And last but not least, our picklers should be strength training. So knowing that a lot of these musculoskeletal injuries are preventable, basically all strength training or all older adults should be doing strength training 2 times a week to meet those guidelines from the American College of Sports Medicine. So if we know that pickleball playing really doesn't count as strength training, we want to ensure that we're advocating for our patients to do strength training to protect their joints, protect their Achilles, protect their backs, protect their shoulders, and all the structures that could hypothetically be injured through an adequate strength training component. We know that this is even more important for our senior women, are more likely to have osteoporotic fractures and wrist fractures, especially related to osteoporosis. So this should definitely be part of our repertoire to advocate for our patients to be doing strength training as part of their routine. So taking it from the top, patients should be who want to return to the pickleball court to prevent the injuries that are most commonly occurring during slips, trips, falls, or diving. We want to make sure that they can run forward, run backward, and run in different directions. We want to make sure that they can skip and that they are skipping, that they can lunge, and that they're overall doing strength training. Guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight to prevent our patients from missing out on the sports that they love. We hope that we can see you in person. We've got some upcoming courses. We've got in Anchorage, Alaska, our live course. I'm going to be there this upcoming weekend, August 17th to 18th. And then Mobile, Alabama, September 7th and 8th. Minnetonka, Minnesota, September 7th and 8th. Then September 14th, we've got classes live in Bend, Oregon and Casper, Wyoming. If you want to join us online, we've got 2 cohorts coming up soon. The level 1 course is starting August 14th, and the level 2 course, where we address more advanced concepts, is October 17th. So thank you guys so much for joining me tonight, and hopefully we can keep those picklers strong. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the MMOA podcast. If you found this helpful, please share with someone that could benefit. And if you're looking for more practical content to help you better serve older adults, head over to www.mmoa.online, where you can learn more about our free resources, our community, continuing education courses, and our certification. Once again, that's www.mmoa.online. Thanks for listening.